Welcome to Ask, one of my favourite shows of the week, I reckon, where we answer your questions. And this week, it's a special Christmas theme one, isn't it, Martin?
Well, there's some Christmas theme, but we've definitely got some questions that are going to test your knowledge. So let's get straight into them.
A question from Carlos Santos. Santos.
Carlos Santos, okay, so he's got a downhill bike, loves riding it, but he's into the winter season in France. He wants to do a bit more exploring on his bike.
Yeah.
So he's asking the question, could he add a cassette and a derailleur and maybe a dropper post to his downhill bike to get that sort of secondary use out of it? Is that a good idea?
So I guess all the bike parks are shut. You want to pedal the bike a bit more, Carlos. Again, it's one of those questions where we say, yes, it's possible, but I wouldn't want to do it, to be honest. A downhill bike is going to pedal like a dog. It's going to be quite expensive to buy all those bits, so I would say it's probably worth saving up. Get yourself, second-hand enduro bike, trail bike. Keep down the bike as well for summer in the bike park. That's the best answer, I think, although it's going to cost him more money.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does say that he's got €1,000 ready for those extra parts,
Yeah.
but put that towards an enduro bike, you're a long way towards a good bike there.
Oh, that's what I would do. Yeah.
Go with that, Carlos. Okay, next one is from Superstar Chaser. You noticed on a video of Blake did recently, 4 ways to improve, that he's running the new Continental Baron project 2.6.
Yep.
He's got it on his new Scott. Have you tried it? What's it like?
I've got the same bike actually with those tyres. Yes, they are 27.5. They're plus. Well, they call it. I'm not sure if they call them plus now. 2.6. I think they're really good actually. We're really fortunate we work with Continentals. They actually are pre-production tyres, so not many people have them at the moment. But they're great. They're quite aggressive tread. Probably not quite as aggressive as the old Baron because it's a bit wider as well, so they're spread out a bit more. So at the moment, I find them really good in the sort of wet conditions, but I think they'll be pretty good in the dry as well, to be fair.
Yeah, well, he's in SoCal, South California. So
it's going to be dry most of the time.
Yeah.
I think they'd be good, actually. Pretty aggressive tyre, but yeah, I'm really impressed so far.
Oh, there you go. Right, here, a bit of a technical problem here for Smudge Smith, who's running a X Stealth dropper post.
Yep.
Or Brand X Stealth dropper post. He's having a few issues where it's sinking down sometimes, it's not sticking in a certain point where it's been locked.
Yep.
I think it's possibly a faulty dropper post, or you think it could be something to do with the
Depends.
cable?
If it's a new post, I would think it probably isn't a faulty one. They can be a bit fussy. I know it's a cable actuated post.
Yeah.
They can be a little bit fussy about the cable tension. So if you've not got that set right, read the instructions. They'll probably be on there. Like you need a certain amount of free play on the lever or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'd play around with the cable first. Make sure it's long enough so it's not catching on anything or something like that.
Yeah.
I would suspect it's that.
Yeah. I know that Blake also installed a dropper post on one of his bikes last year, and he over tightened the seat post, and that really affected how the dropper post worked as well.
Yeah,
so
I've
that's
never
something.
had that, but I've heard that in the past.
Yeah, so that's something worth checking as well.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about dropper posts, let's take a look at our video. It's all about how to install one.
So the Highline has got a hydraulic cartridge inside and it's cable actuated, so it's one of the more simple dropper seat posts to fit. I've actually already got one on my bike, but I'm going to remove that for the sake of this video to show you how to fit a new one.
Next question is from Peter Van Drill, and he says, hello guys, I have a big problem.
Big problem.
My front brake caliper broke in half after being frozen. Really?
Never heard of that.
And I really need a new one, obviously. Any advice on a good cheap front brake with 160mm rotors?
I know that Shimano do good cheap brakes, the Dior ones, but actually Doddy's hit us up some knowledge here, and he says that, Shimano make the best brakes. I knew that. But what I didn't know is he says that mineral fluid might make a better brake in cold conditions.
Oh.
No, other way around, sorry. It says mineral fluid might be more vulnerable in cold conditions. So go for something that isn't mineral, go for the other stuff, which is SRAM.
I've never heard
of.
Yeah.
I've never seen a brake caliper snap like that.
Wow, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Maybe go for the SRAM level brake.
Yeah, that's
there you go.
Yeah. Okay, Big Welsh fella says, just returning to MTB after 15 years. I have a 2000 Cove Hustler. Good bike. Which then cost me 4K. Ooh. Wow, that was a lot of money back then. That was a lot of money back then.
17 years ago.
How much would I need to get a modern bike that performs as good as my Cove, and how much would I need to pay to get the cutting edge bike?
Cutting edge bike? Oh, that's how long's a piece of string. You can get a great bike for 2 or 3 grand. You could also spend 7.5, 8 grand.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, direct sales is a is meaning that you're getting a lot of bike for a lot less money these days. Canyon doing direct sales.
True.
Who else is doing direct sales that are doing great?
There's all sorts of people. Like YT do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's bringing in bikes. But I'd have to say, if you spend anywhere near that money now,
£4,000.
you are going to get an exceptional bike.
What's the equivalent of £4,000 now? Is probably 6 or 7. You're
Yeah.
going to get whatever you want, pretty much.
Yeah, but I think still spending 4K, you're going to kick your Cove Hustler into touch.
Oh yeah.
By a long
The
way.
angles and everything will be so much better.
Yeah, geometry's improved. Wheel size, it's all happening. It's all happening.
True.
Yeah.
Right, Isaac Raymond has been racing cross country for a couple of years now and is looking to begin racing downhill and enduro. Would a downhill specific bike be able to climb well enough to use it for enduro? Similar to our very first question from Santa. Or would using an enduro bike in downhill give me a disadvantage?
It's got to be the enduro
A little
bike.
bit, but
Yeah.
a good enduro bike, you'll be able to ride most downhill tracks pretty fast. A good downhill bike to ride enduro on, well, I wouldn't do it. It'd be very hard work. It'd be quite slow.
But you know what? We've addressed this problem.
Have we?
Yeah. Dude, you need to watch Blake's enduro versus downhill bike. Check this out.
Hi, my name's Blake, and I'm all about the nuke-proof Mega trail bike. No. I'm Blake, and this is my Canyon Sender downhill bike. Well, mine's hydroformed aluminium T6 6061 coming in at 16.33 kilos, which is 30 pounds bang on. Ha! Aluminium. Mine's got carbon front end, aluminium rear end at 16 kilos and 35.2 pounds. But check this out. These Fox 40s, 200 mil of travel. See that on the rear? Fox again, 200 mil of travel. Beat that, trail guy. Well, that's gonna help you when you get down to the bottom of the mountain and you're gonna pedal that thing all the way to the top. Well, I'm running RockShox Lyric up front, 170 mil of travel. See that on the rear? RockShox Monarch at 160 mil of travel. All I need.
It's a quick fire round. Did I say that quick enough?
It's very fast.
First one comes from Scott Holiday, another very apt name. Can you guys do a Top Gear style challenge where you buy 3 cheap used bikes, let's say around 300 quid, and put them through a series of challenges?
Yes, that sounds like right up your street.
Sounds like something we've been planning for a while.
It does, yes. Liz Lamosas says, could you make a video with Doddy trying a road bike for the very first time? Yes.
I'm not sure we convinced Doddy to do it.
We've got to try and talk him into it. I would really enjoy that. I was like, and I'll front it. I'll be like, Doddy, you backflip it like this.
I'd like to see Doddy in some lycra, that'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
Actually. T. Stein, do fat bike snow studs really help on ice and give you more grip? I live in Minnesota in the United States and I've seen people slam hard with and without studs on icy trails.
They got to, don't they?
I've never tried it.
Yeah.
They must
Try them. Let us know.
Yeah.
Jawad Shah says, I wanted to know that what's the difference between all mountain ride and enduro ride and the difference between these riders?
Not a lot, although I would say an all mountain bike's probably going to be a bit heavier, something you can throw around your big drops and stuff. An enduro bike is going to be lighter and more racy, but the travel will probably be quite similar, but just the weight, I would say.
Yeah, I don't like the term all mountain, just putting it out there.
Seems a little bit old-fashioned now.
Doesn't mean much to me. No, a bike doesn't spring into my mind when I hear it.
A similar question from Chad Anton. What's the difference between a trail bike and an enduro bike? Well, I would say a trail bike is going to be less travel than an enduro bike. But it's a bit ambiguous, really. A trail bike, I would say, is 140 to 160. An enduro bike is probably 150 to 170.
Yeah. Again, trail bike. No, it's not for me, that term.
I would say, I would say my Canyon Spectral is a trail bike. I would say my nuke-proof Mega is an enduro bike.
See, I think you could argue that Blake's dirt jump bike is a trail bike.
As in ride trails.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
See?
getting even more bloody muddied water.
Yeah. Hans Vixnewski, I hope I said that right, Vixnewski said, should I remove all my volume spacers when I set my sag and add them eventually later on if I feel the need?
I would say no. Run the volume spacers as you think you probably should. Set your sag, ride it. If you're not using all travel, you can maybe get rid of a volume spacer, but it shouldn't really change your sag.
That's a good one. And why don't dirt jumpers use 0 mil stems? Wouldn't it be easier to throw bar spins and such tricks? And I'll ask Blake this. I thought, well, yeah, it makes sense actually, because the rotation would be directly on top of the headset. But Blake just said, and this was his technical answer, no, man, that would feel weird.
It would feel weird, but also you can have a slight offset on the fork, so it wouldn't. If the fork was completely straight and the wheel bolted straight in the bottom, then it'd feel really balanced, but still your fork's going to stick out a bit anyway.
Yeah, so you're still going to get that.
You'll get a bit of a whoop.
It's still got a block to get around, yes. Yeah, Blake said nay. And that was quick fire round. I don't think we did it quick enough, being honest, but I think that was more to do with the questions. Must try harder, you lot. Quick questions, please.
Yeah, you should try harder, not us.
Yeah, it wasn't our fault. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, this week's one from Thomas Ashcroft is very interesting, and we have watched it over and over, but I think Neil has solved it.
I hope so. So it's a drop off, and it all looks good. It's like a reasonably sized drop. So Thomas comes in, good technique, gets behind the bike a little bit. I would say you probably get your hips back a little bit further. Lands 2 wheels at the same time, as I would always recommend. But then, all of a sudden, the bike sort of stalls
it all
and goes
goes
forward.
wrong at the end there. What's happening?
I'm almost sure that you've hit the brake, because if you listen carefully, you can hear something skid, probably the rear tyre. So obviously this one I'm coaching is think about a run in and also a run out on a drop off. So let your bike settle before you try and do anything. It's because all your weight's going into the bike. If you then hit the brakes, yeah, you can get up and forward very easily. So
I think that might be it.
head up, stay off the brakes.
I knew you'd solve it, Neil.
Oh,
I
thanks.
had absolute faith.
Wow.
Yeah, stay good. Coach, years of coaching.
That's
That's
why
what it
you've been
is.
so nice to me, because it's like the
It's Christmas,
Christmas
isn't it?
season.
It's
Season of
Christmas.
goodwill.
It's Christmas, yeah. Well, thanks for getting involved. If you've got a correct me if I'm wrong and you want to send it in, then send it in on an email, ask@gmbn.com, it's just there.
Yep.
And we will take a look and see if we can fix your riding issues.
Yeah, and leave your questions down below in the comments.
Yes.
Click on the logo to subscribe if you haven't already. And for more videos, over here for an epic ride in Alicante. with the
Yeah, and you
boys.
can click over here for how to take the perfect Instagram shot.
Give thumbs up if you like Christmas.
Oh, who's not going to do that? Everyone loves Christmas. That was a